get to hear about CMA.
Did I fix it? Can y'all hear me? Y'all need to let me know. I think I fixed it. Hello, did I fix it? So, y'all, something's been happening with the XSplit thing, but I think I fixed it. I did fix it because I can see the closed caption. Woot woot, love training. So nobody heard about our week.
That's okay. I didn't miss anything. Now we get to talk about your week.
No, see, that's the thing I don't want to talk about. My week it's been fun. It's not too bad. It's just, some stuff came up. So we have a lot of animals at my house, and we love all of our animals. And unfortunately, my dog died today, which is super sad for me because she was my friend. And I don't know if dogs go to heaven, so I'm like, I hope that's true. All dogs go to heaven, but I don't know. The jury is out. People don't know. Conflicting theories. I'm going to go with they do go to heaven because that makes me feel a little better. But, yeah, she was a great dog. She had a good life. And, so stuff happens. And you have to be an adult and you have to do what's best, not necessarily for you. And so I'm just glad that I have my family to help me because I'm not good at making tough decisions, which the Lord highlighted today. But that's all right. I'm still growing. But yeah, so it was a hard week for more than just that, but that was just like the icing on the terrible cake, the poop icing on the terrible cake. But
Did you say poop icing?
Poop icing, yeah, because you don't put icing on a bad cake.
They do it all the time.
Oh, I guess they do. What kind of cake do you like, Seth?
All kind of cakes.
All the cakes?
Like pound cake, red velvet cake. Does cheesecake count?
Yeah. Cheesecake's my favorite cake. Yeah. I love cheesecake. So, I'm excited about our birthdays coming up. Yay!
Mm-hmm.
And excited that this week is almost over. What? I'm excited. Because it only gets better from here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see. But we're going to talk about that because the Lord has been talking to me during the hard times, which is, I think, when he talks the loudest. Is that the case for you, Seth?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when you're really going through it.
It's probably whenever we're listening the most. That's why he talks the loudest.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I don't know if it's because we don't listen on top of the mountain, or maybe it's because we're breathing so tough, so hard. You can't hear when you're breathing, when you're exasperated.
Yep.
I hope that was right. It was close enough. But, yeah, so the Lord is still really, really good, and that's why he wanted me to tell you guys about my week, because even though it was hard, like, he's still so good. And even though he didn't do it how I asked him to, like, he's still sovereign, and he's still really good. I also went to a funeral this week, so it's been fun. But we're almost there. So, I'm going to pray, and then we'll get started talking about what we're going to talk about. Okay? Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Dear Lord, I just thank you for today. I thank you for the difficult times because they draw us closer to you. And I just ask that if there's anyone, well, God, I know there are people out there that are going through tough times. I just ask that you use those times to draw them near to you, help them to see your heart, and help us to know your ways, not just your works, not just what you do, but help us to see in all of this who you are, that we would know you are good and that you're a good Father and that you are for us and that you love us. I ask that you empower Seth and I to share the truth that you have placed in our hearts. Help us to share our hearts with these people as we minister to them, or as you minister to them through us, and as we minister to you, Lord. I pray that you receive the honor and the glory of it all. In the mighty name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Yeah.
All right. There's a comment I want to read. Donna said, I learned the most about my Father's love in the hard times. Yes, me too. Me too. And that's that's what God has been speaking to me, especially today, because I knew that my dog was going to die, and I did not plan on talking about my dog. I actually asked not to talk about my dog because, some people don't like dogs and don't think that it's whatever, whatever.
Crushing.
But I didn't want to talk about it, but I asked the Lord I knew she was going to die, and I've known for a little bit, not that she hasn't been suffering or anything like that. And that's what I didn't want her to suffer. And so I asked the Lord today to just take her. I didn't want to have to put her down. Like, that's just what I didn't. Like, I was like, God, if you want to heal her, do it.
Mm-hmm.
Praise God, do that. But, like, if this is it, could you just not let it hurt so bad?
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't do that. And I was a little upset with him because he said if we ask a thing in the name of Jesus, that thing shall be. Like, you ask, you have not because you ask not. And so I asked, and my sister had to take the dog and put her down while I was on the way here. And it's just not what I wanted. And I got upset because all I was asking for was mercy. Like, I wasn't asking for a miracle. Mm-hmm. And on the way here, I was like, why am I so upset? And I have been asking for weeks now that God would show me his ways. I want to know him. I want to know his ways. And it just sank on me that I don't fully understand his ways. And so I'm getting upset with him. But he knows what's best. And that was the first thing I prayed. I said, God, do what's best. Do what's going to glorify you. Do what's going to draw my family closer to you. Do what's going to draw me closer to you. But then I added this contingency on it, and I added my way on it. And I said, could you do it where I suffer the least? And yeah, it was about the dog. I didn't want her to suffer. But mainly it was about me because I didn't want it to be like this. Mm-hmm. And so I was putting this request at the end of saying, but do it your way, God. Do it your way. And that's not how it works. Yeah. When we say your will be done, it's his will. Now, yes, we ask for stuff, but I can't get upset when he does it the way he wants to. Yeah. Just because it wasn't the way I wanted to. Because I wanted mercy, and that's what I got. But it didn't look the way that I thought it was. And so I got upset. And, that doesn't pan out with his ways.
And that's, a lot of times, things will happen, death in the family, loss of job, something like that will happen, failing a test, whatever it is. And it will cause us to question because and if you really think about it, you realize, okay, so that was my mindset going into that. And of course, I always pray before a test. I'm like, Lord, I ask that you help me remember the things that I studied, and I ask that you would fill in any gaps that are missing. And sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. But that's on me because I didn't study enough. But it's that sense of how, you talked about, knowing his ways, and sometimes because his ways are always a mystery to us. Mm-hmm. And sometimes he wants us to kind of walk through it so that we can look back on it and see his ways and see, okay, so he did it this way. Because I think that it builds character in us, like we started this off. Mm-hmm. It builds character in us in a way that that wouldn't happen if he I'm gonna do it this way. And of course, because you would be able to build a callus to that and be able to go that way about it and say, okay, so that was your will. And because some things that will be very surprising, mm-hmm. And will not look how we ever thought it would look. And that's one of the things about Father, is that we always we would never know what he's, and of course he gives us insight because that's just who he is. We're friends to him, and he likes to share stuff with his friends. Mm-hmm. But there are some things that he keeps from us because he wants to see our heart response to the events and stuff, and he wants to make sure that we always choose him, and that thirst doesn't change, mm-hmm. Whether we're at the top of the mountain or we're in the valley. He wants to see and test our faith and see where we're lacking, and so that he can build us up in that area.
Yeah, and I loved how you mentioned that he wants to see our heart's response. Because he's been saying that to me, matter of fact, like he's given me this book idea for it, and one day it'll get wrote. Don't ask me when, because I don't know, but he's going to write it. It's in there. He's already written it. Excuse me. He's already written it. It's in there. But it's all about our response. Yeah. Because our response is what brings him glory. It's what brings him honor. It's what brings him joy. And so oftentimes when we're going through these things, it's not about what we're going through. It's about our response. And no, God doesn't bring terrible things upon his people because he loves us and he does shield us and he does answer prayers and he is wonderful. But through it all, he's looking for our response, and he sees our hearts, and he knows what we're going to choose, but he gives us the choice nonetheless. And a lot of the times, he's showing us our own heart response because we can't see our heart. Like, I can't see Seth's heart as much as I see Seth, and I know who he is, and I can see his spirit, and like I see him, I can't see his heart. Yeah. Only God can see that, and Seth can't even see his own heart because the heart is deceitful in all its ways. But there are things that the Lord allows to happen so that we can see our heart, both good and bad things. And I think that is what this whole thing has been this week. And because God, you know, all the things that I went through this week, I had very specific, targeted prayers, and God didn't answer them any way I thought he would. Yeah. And the theme song of my life is Defender, and there's a line in it. It says, "So much better your way, so much better this way," and I want that to be my heart's cry, even when it doesn't go the way that I thought it was. Whether it's a good situation, a bad situation, whatever. Like, when life doesn't go the way that I think it is or should, I want to rest in the knowledge that God is in control, that he is sovereign in the good times and the bad times, and it's always better his way. Because my way is so short-sighted. Like, I can't see what God can see. And my heart's cry during all of the events of this week was that God would draw people closer to him, that he would use the situations to work on their hearts. And I was over here sitting, acting like I knew what was best for someone else's heart. And that is just not the mindset as Christians that we should have. And I think we need to be cautious of that because we can't see people's heart, but we have to trust that God knows what he's doing because he does. He does.
And if you think about it, because like in school, we hated pop quizzes because it's just rude. But the reason why we hated them is because we weren't preparing the way that we needed to be preparing for the class. We weren't taking the time out of class to do offended. What we needed to do. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
Because, I mean, we wouldn't care if we got a pop. I remember, like, I would be given a pop quiz, and I wouldn't care because, okay, I did the reading last night, so I'm not offended in any way.
So you were that kid.
It was one time. But every other time that we were given a pop quiz and I hadn't done the reading or I hadn't been keeping up with the class, I was like, how dare she do this to us? How dare this teacher do this? Because she knows she's just doing it to punish us. And God does the same thing because yes, he gives us those like monumental things where he will test us, and we know that those are coming. But he also throws us those little curveballs, and it's not a way to trip us up, but it's for us, like you said, it's for us to see, like, so we can kind of test ourselves and see, okay, so we are kind of weak in this area. And after the show last week, we were talking about kind of going through our internal house and cleaning out things and repairing rooms and things that we may have neglected and whenever we were going through our broken self. And it's the same way because those pop quizzes reveal what we need to study, what we need to work on. Yeah. And so it's that in the same vein, whenever we're tested, and it can be something minor, like did you tell the truth in this moment? Were you truthful? Did you act in integrity?
Mm-hmm.
Were you kind and compassionate when you didn't have to be? In those things where it doesn't hurt anybody that you didn't.
Right.
Well, of course, lies will, but it doesn't hurt anyone, and it hurts you, but it's not like life altering. But
Right.
it kind of it brings a check to yourself. Okay, so I need to work on that. I need to pray about that. I need to seek Father on how I get this out of my heart and how I bring more of Him into my heart. And I think that's such a cool way to look at it. I'm just thinking about that, but
Yeah, I loved how you basically said He prepares us, and that's so true.
Yeah.
Like, He wants us to be successful. He wants us to succeed. The Psalms 23 says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." In one of the Greek translations, that means I shall not fail.
Yeah.
The only way to not fail is, one, be in Him, let Him lead you. But two, you gotta take the little steps.
Yeah.
Because following Him is about taking one step after the other. You've got to walk before you can run. And as much as we don't like it, suffering is a part of this life. And God has been making that very clear to me. And He has also made it very clear that my flesh has this wicked desire not to suffer. She will tuck and run. And which is weird because I'm normally in the fight or flight reflex. I'm a fighter. But when it comes to suffering, I have noticed that I will run and run and run and run. And God is revealing that to me so that I can address it.
Yeah.
Because suffering's going to come. Persecution is already here, and it's only going to get bigger. And what God wants to ensure and what He has highlighted to me is that my response is towards Him. That my response is correct, not in the eyes of the world, but in the eyes of God. Am I going to blame Him? Am I going to get mad at Him? How am I going to respond to the circumstances of life when things start to heat up? And this event really highlighted that for me and really helped me to search my own heart. And I've prayed that, what the Psalms 151 says, search my heart and show me any wicked way that I could allow you to correct it. Another translation says, any painful path that I may be walking on. And God is doing that. So He's answering all my prayers, just not doing it the way I wanted Him to. And it's a little uncomfortable. But friends, we're not here to be comfortable. Being peculiar is not about being comfortable. It's about being set apart. And that sometimes feels like isolation, but it's not. And we have to get the right mind frame with all of that. Or it will destroy us. We will crumble when the big things come if we don't pay attention to these little training seminars.
And that's why whenever we talked about John 15 with Alyssa, and that's why that abiding in the vine is so vital at all moments of our lives, because I find that whenever I stop abiding or I am slacking off on my study, that I will, that's when I'm tested the most. And I think it's kind of used as a thing of, one, you can't do this on your own. Things come up whenever, and you kind of remove yourself from my will, and so you're walking in a path that you are unable to stand up on your own. And so I think that's back to John 15, how vital it is that we are constantly being aware of our heart position, as we keep bringing it back to being aware that, all right, so these are the areas that Father and I have discussed, and asking Him daily and nightly whenever you talk to Father. So Father, what's next on the agenda, and kind of almost treating it like that. What do you want to clean out next? What do you want to work on next? What room do you want to fill with furniture, and what do you want to get rid of furniture? And I think it's so important for that constant communion. And recognizing that, and it was a quote, I don't know who it was from, but he was talking about the bread of life, and he's like, the bread of life is the only bread in this world that will make you more hungry, because I mean it does, because whenever you truly spend time with Father, and you continue to do that day after day, like there gets to a point where you can't, like that hour is not enough, so you have to go to an hour 30 minutes, and that hour and 30 minutes is not enough, so you got to go to 2 hours, and it's the only thing. Jesus and the Father are only things that will never, they satisfy you, but you're always go back for more, because it creates even a bigger hole, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, that was loud. Yeah. Well, bringing it to one of the Beatitudes, going to steal your thunder here a little bit, Seth. That I don't know where it is, Seth, you'll tell me, but it says that those who hunger and thirst for righteousness will be satisfied.
Yeah.
And I think it's so interesting that you brought that up, and then the Lord connected that dot for me. Like when we think of satisfied, we think that we won't need any more. Mm-hmm. Like that little bit is enough. That's all that we need. But that is the wrong mindset, because one, God is countercultural, and so if you think satisfied in society means you don't need any more, then you don't have the accurate definition, because the world has tainted it, not because you don't know what satisfied means. Because when we're talking about satisfaction and contentment in the Lord, it doesn't mean we get a little bit and that's all we need, we're good to go. It means that we continue to go after, not striving, not chasing, but walking with the Lord, and that satisfies us, but we want to do it more because it's so satisfying that we want more. And it's so hard for me to even describe the way the Lord's downloading it to me, because I just don't think we have the words, and I don't think I've ever said that, because y'all know I love words, and I think the English language is sufficient, but for this we don't have that picture of what it means. Like, we are satisfied, like our hearts are content, and we have all that we need, but He is all that we need, but we have to be with Him, like so close, so tight, and we don't, like that abiding, we don't need to walk away. But I think we do that. I think we walk away, and we think satisfied is, oh, I got my hamburger, I'm good for a couple hours. For me, it's like 3, and I think that's beautiful. Other people can go all day. I can't. And I liken that to my relationship with the Lord. Like, y'all don't have to read your Bible all the time, but I do. Like, I have to. Not that I'm better than anyone. It's probably because I need more help. But it's like that. Like, you don't get your meal and you go sit down and be by yourself. You, like, abide in Him. And that's what satisfaction is. That's what true satisfaction is. And you won't be hungry and thirsty again, because you'll always be hungry and thirsty. And it just, my brain is having a hard time.
It doesn't make sense, but it makes sense.
It's spazzing, but my heart gets it. My heart knows what that's talking about.
And even like the first beatitude is what happiness comes to you when you feel your spiritual poverty, when it's talking about whenever you surrender fully to the Lord. And that ties in so perfectly to what you were talking about, because the more and more that you surrender, the more and more that you abide with Father, the more that you recognize, okay, wow, I'm lacking in this area. I need you to fill this area. And so even over the past week, I started reading the Beatitudes on Sunday, and I've been working through each one and trying to figure out what they mean to me and how I can, because they're all heart postures, and so posturing my heart in that way. And so that surrender is always something that has not bothered me, but it hasn't made sense to me, because, and I'm sure I've shared it on the show before, but it's that sense of, am I truly surrendered? What have I not surrendered? Because in a lot of times I'll recognize it, some things that I'm not even aware that need to be surrendered, that weren't surrendered. And that comes out of that abiding, and you begin to, Father will open your eyes to certain things that, okay, so this person I did not surrender over to you, Father, because I had feelings or I had some attachment to that person that was not of you, but that was not of you. And so it's this this sense of every day we become more and more surrendered to the point that our lives are fully surrendered, just as Jesus was fully surrendered to his Father. And so, and we honor him in that. And even at the end of to finish the Beatitudes, says, for theirs is the realm of heaven's kingdom. But there's, it just takes it back to the heart posture of, all right, Lord, here's my heart. I know there's flaws. I know there's areas that need a lot of work, but I surrender it to you because I know that you can make it better than I could ever hope to make it.
Right. And surrender isn't this thing, okay, I do it one time. Like, it's a daily thing. Yeah. And Paul, he reiterates that so much because I feel like, from what I've observed in my own life and in the lives of those around me, like, just like the satisfy thing, we do the same thing with surrender. We, like, lay it down at the altar, and then we think we're surrendered. You know, like, we lay down this thing, but we're multifaceted people. Like, we are dynamic. None of us are stagnant. Well, excuse me, some of us might be stagnant, but none of us are flat characters. We have many attributes. You know, there's so many parts to us that we don't even fully understand, and so we think we're surrendered, but there's still more to lay down. And so you got to do that all the time. Like, I feel so surrendered. And then God's like, lay that down. I'm like, I didn't even know I was holding anything up. Thank you. Thank you. Donna put in the comments, capacity. And I think that gets us closer to the satisfying and the surrender thing. It's about our capacity. And as we become filled up and as we allow the Lord, he expands our capacity. Yeah. So there's more that we're hungry and thirsty for, but there's more that we need to surrender. And so it's this walking on this tightrope, not that we can't do it or that it's too hard to be a Christian, but it's this fine balance of focus and surrender and being hungry and thirsty and, like, realizing God's carrying us even when it doesn't feel like it, because he loves us. And he has been very clear with me this week, this year, that he loves me so much. And I didn't grasp how deep and how wide and how long and far and how lavish his love is. But I feel like I'm beginning to, and I hope that I never fully grasp it, because it's such an adventure getting closer to him, because he's pouring out his love. And I think that goes back to the satisfaction aspect and the surrender, which is so beautiful, the pictures that he paints for us.
Yeah, and there's that... relating it back to school. I don't know why I don't like school.
I do.
But there's, like, you think about your final, like, some classes you have a midterm and a final, and let's just say you didn't do well on the midterm, and so you had to do really well on the final. But Father gives us those tests, and that test will determine whether you are able to move on to the next class. And then the same thing in the spiritual, and how we relate to Father is he gives us these tests that are we able to, and obviously not in our own, but are we able to abide and surrender ourselves to him? Okay, Father, you can get me through this. And so you walk through that test in him, and he goes, all right, you've graduated to the next level, and there's that promotion in the kingdom. And I think that's the capacity and the satisfying and the surrender, that the more that we allow this, like you said, the more that we allow ourselves to be surrendered to him, and we recognize, okay, so we keep picking this back up, so we're going to lay it back down, and we're going to make a note of that, so we don't keep picking it back up. And so the satisfy, all right, so we're going to go to him day after day. We're going to plead before him, and we're going to say, Father, where's your heart right now? What are you doing right now? How are you moving? And so we begin to think like Father, and we begin to see how Father thinks. And I that's one of the coolest things, to be able to see how the creator of the universe thinks, and even his word, like, you can see how his mind works, and you can, in Jesus' teaching, you can see the way he teaches, and it's not in this, like, you have to dig for the meaning of his teaching. He doesn't just lay it out there. He doesn't do a PowerPoint presentation.
That would have been nice.
But it's a if you truly want to go to that promotion, if you truly want more capacity, then you have to spend the time, and you have to be willing to sacrifice some of yourself in order to receive that promotion, and like certain like spiritual gifts or whatever, like and certain milestones in your faith. There comes points whenever you are like, you're capped at where you are right now, and so you need that promotion. God wants to promote you, but are you willing to sacrifice more than what you're already sacrificing? That's so that you can move on? Because if you want to move on, there will be things in your life that you have to give up, and by an act of faith, then we have to recognize that, all right, so we're going to give this up. We're going to set out more time, or we're going to stop watching videos. We're going to stop listening to this kind of music, stop reading these books, stop hanging out with those people, because they aren't, they may not have my best intentions in mind. They may not see Father the way that I see Father. And that does happen. You will leave friends behind simply because you can't relate to them because of the way that your mind has been renewed. And that doesn't mean just leave them in the ditch, but like I mean, I've seen this in my own life, that they're my best friends forever. Since I was in first grade, like I have grown apart from them. And a part of it is my own doing, and we're working on that. But there's that sense that my mind works differently, and so it's hard for me to just have conversations with them. It's hard for me to talk about the things that they talk about, because I just don't think like that anymore. It's not like they're bringing up bad things, but it shows you how much you're changed by Father, and your relationship with Him. And so
I mean, I've been right where you're at. I feel like I'm moving into that season again, which is just wild to me, because I thought I was past that. No, but I totally get that, because it's not that they're bad people, or it's not that you don't love them. It's just you guys don't relate. And the things that you want to talk about, they can't even grasp. And we pray for those people. We pray that the Lord would deepen them in their understanding, not that they would be like us or anything like that, because I'm nothing to emulate, but that they would be so caught up in Jesus that they could have heavenly conversations. And, I don't know, maybe they'll get there, maybe they won't. That's between them and the Lord. But realizing that being a peculiar person means that you're set apart. And so you can't go everywhere, and you can't talk to everyone, and you have to remember that not everyone sees you. And that is hard, and that feels like rejection, because you're thinking, why don't they understand? Like, why don't they like me? Why can't I talk to them like I love them? And it's not a bad thing. And we have to stop. I remember when I was exactly where you are, and somebody told me, you've got in your mind that losing friends is this bad thing, and you're so confused because y'all didn't have this big old fight, and you're hurting because nobody told you it's okay to grow apart from people. And when she told me that, it just freed me, because I was becoming this peculiar person, and it was hurting because you can't take everybody with you. And realizing that those people don't see you, and so they don't understand you, it really set me free to be who I am, because I kept trying to be someone else. And I was no good at that. So it really sets you free to be who you are and be where God has called you to be. And you don't want to be held back. Not that they're a burden or anything, but people go different directions. And that sometimes God calls them to different places for different seasons, and friendships are seasonal. And I was never taught that. And so that really encouraged me, but I wish I'd had that encouragement like a while ago, because I thought these things were forever, and they will be in heaven, but I ain't in heaven yet, obviously.
And there's, I guess another word is seriousness, because even the more promotions you get, the more that you're able to carry, that means the more serious you are. Because you think about Paul, and he talks about, when I was a child, I reasoned like a child, and when I became adult, I put away my childish thinking. And reason like an adult. And there comes a point in our at least in my walk that like I can look back and I can see the milestones. Like I can see the moment that I went from sort of like a nominal Christian to not a nominal Christian anymore. And I could not give you a specific date, but it was last year sometime.
At 2:45 in the morning. No, I'm just kidding.
It was probably whenever I came home from Anderson because of COVID. There was a shift in me that caused me to, okay, this is for real. I tapped into something. Okay, I want more of this. I need more of this. I need to live off of this because and again, I'll say it again, but God traps you in this, and it's not that he does this on purpose, and you can always step out, but it's like crack almost. Once you get hooked, you have to go through like rehab to get off of it.
Yeah, but why would you want it? Like, he's the greatest thing.
I did not compare God to crack. I'm sorry.
He is the greatest thing in the whole everything. Yeah. You know, and you call it trapped, and that's an accurate depiction, but like, you don't want to leave.
Yeah.
And even if you wanted to leave, where could you go? David said that. I don't remember where. I think maybe Psalms 151. And he says, if I go to hell, there you are. If I go to heaven, there you are. Where can I hide from you? And I've been there, like, how do I get away from this? Because it's intense and it's a lot. But, like, I don't want to get away from it. Because I love him and he loves me. And there's nothing better than that.
Yeah, so I think that like you before you just willy-nilly jump into anything,
right? You need to prepare your
you
heart. Think
and you say, okay, Lord, I am ready to be this serious. I'm ready to increase in capacity. I'm ready to go deeper than I've ever gone before, and he'll take you because
he's God.
Yeah, and he wants you to be in right at his heart. And that takes practice, takes time, it takes surrender, takes abiding. But there's benefits to seriousness, and there's sacrifice in that seriousness as well.
Yeah, and I like to front up. I don't know why that came. I like to frankly just warn people. I don't know where that came from. I like to be frank and honest and be like, yo, you need to know what you're signing up for because God don't play. And there's a scripture, it says, it's better if you don't know than to know and walk away. And I have seen that play out in people's lives because once you've tasted the goodness of God, nothing will ever satisfy. And so you get a taste of him and then you try to go and live life the way you used to. One, there's lots of spiritual stuff that happens, and you can call people for help if that's what you need. You need to work through that.
Cassie.
But don't call me. There's a number. It's 803-761-7233. Spiritual Freedom Network. People, you can Google it. That can help you with stuff like that. But not just spiritually, but your heart. Just nothing compares to the goodness of God. And don't take my word for it. Taste it for yourself, but know what you're signing up for because God is good, but he is righteous and he's holy and he's merciful and he's just and he's sovereign. And that means it's his way. And his way is always better for us. But I don't know about y'all, but I made it pretty clear at the beginning, like, I kind of like my way. And sometimes I get stuck in my way and he has to get that out of me. And it's not fun. And the Bible literally says he chastises those he loves. And so we kind of understand God because if we're all, God is love, he is. Yeah. But if we think that that is all he is, we're going to set ourselves up for a disappointment. And I'm telling you, the devil is going to hook, line, and sinker that if you don't have this real depiction of who Father is. And I don't want you to have half of his heart. I want you to have all of him. I want you to know him in the fullness thereof because he is incredible. Yeah. I'm going to read this Psalms real quick, and it'll just tie everything in. It is my favorite Psalms, and when I was going through a really hard time a couple years ago, The Lord gave me this Psalms, and he brought it back up. I guess I'm going through a really hard time. It's Psalm 63. You, God, are my God. Earnestly I seek you. I thirst for you. My whole being longs for you in a dry and parched land where there is no water. I have seen you in the sanctuary and beheld your power and your glory. Because your love is better than life, my lips will praise you. Another version says, because your loving kindness is better than life, my lips will glorify you. I will praise you as long as I live, and in your name I will lift up my hands. I will be fully satisfied as with the richest of foods. With singing lips my mouth will praise you. On my bed I remember you. I think of you through the watches of the night, because you are my help. I sing in the shadow of your wings. I cling to you. Your right hand upholds me. Those who want to kill me will be destroyed. They will go down to the depths of the earth. They will be given over to the sword and become food for jackals. But the king will rejoice in God. Or you can say, but I will rejoice in God. All who swear by God will glorify him, but the mouths of liars will be silenced. I just love that, and it encapsulates everything that we talked about, and that was God, because he put all this together, because that's what he does. Mm-hmm. But like, the loving kindness of the Lord is so much better than life. When life is great, the loving kindness of the Lord is so much better than life. So especially when life is bad, the loving kindness of the Lord is so much better than life. So our only response is to praise him. And I know that that's difficult. It is hard to show forth gladness and sing praises when you're not happy. But the joy of the Lord is our strength, and he gives us the strength to lift our hands, because our praise contains the breakthrough. It contains the frequency we need to get out of the box that we've placed ourselves in. It contains our ability to break out of whatever stuck mindset we've been living in. And that's what we need to cling to, God. Mm-hmm. And that's what the psalm says, like, I cling to you and you satisfy.
Yeah. And in my translation it says, oh God of my life, I'm lovesick for you in this weary wilderness. And lovesick means in love or missing the person one loves so much that one is unable to act normally.
Yeah, that's me.
And I think, again, that's such a, like, you can truly see David's heart in that. Mm-hmm. And you can, and because David was a man after God's own heart, and so you can see Father's heart as an extension of that.
Yeah.
And because David was at the point to where, like, Father, I need you so much. Like, I am not me without you. And the world has skewed that, and we've made that about like physical relationships and stuff like that.
We have.
And
we've ruined it.
But there comes to a point, like, in your relationship with God, where there is no one that you love more than God. Mm-mm. There is no one that affects you the way that God affects you. And like I think that's such a deep you're in such a deep place with Father, that, like, because your heart begins to merge back into his heart. Mm-hmm. and so you experience things the same way that God experienced things, and so
yeah,
it gets to the point where you can't think straight, you mm-hmm. can't function. And I don't say this out of pride, but I find this in myself, where if I'm slacking, or if I'm not talking to Father like I should be, or I'm not involving him in my decisions, that, like, I can't function. I lose all sense of joy, happiness, any sort of like, it's hard for me to love people. It's hard for me to be around people, because I just am no longer myself without God there. And of course he doesn't leave me like he did or would leave David.
Yeah. Because the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. And he's always there for me, but it's whether you choose to tap into that or not. Yeah. And I think this is, at least for like younger people, this is a hard thing sometimes, because at least the people that I've hung around with and the people I've met at college and stuff, like again in my own life, like we'll be flippant about this love, and even in the world they'll be flippant about the people that they love, the things that they love, what's going on. And so we kind of take things for granted, or we don't see things as a big deal. And I'm having to work through that. And seeing people in my life as a big deal, and recognizing how much I truly do love them, even if I don't express it. And we're working on that as well. But there's being able to recognize, okay, so Father has positioned these people in my life for a reason, and you've been put on this earth for such a time as this, and you are here. You are here to impact those people.
Yes.
And so this isn't something to take flippantly. This isn't something to just throw God in the waste bin and pick them back up whenever you aren't around these people. Because it gets to the point, and I've been reading 1st and 2nd Peter, and it was talking about and Titus, it's talking about how you act around non-believers. Because it is very important how you portray yourself, because one, if you're a confessing Christian and they know that, then they'll pick at that and say, okay, well, you're acting just like us, so why would I ever? So you don't want to be a stumbling block for someone else. But even if they don't know, and you can be a light in their life, and you can bring peace and love into them. And even if they don't know what's going on, like, that doesn't matter. Let Father handle the rest of it. Just be who you can be to them, and do what God has given you to do, so that you can love that person to the best of God's ability. And even if you don't minister to them, like, that's not important. Like, the people that I'm around, like in Kim class, I'm not there to minister directly to them. Like, I'm not here to speak in their lives and tell them about Jesus. I am there to be a light.
That's right.
And sometimes I'm not always successful, and there's grace and mercy for that. And so it's not that you have to always be like that, but it's you're striving towards that goal, and not striving, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, in college, God made this very clear to me, that I can share his love and I can show people Jesus with just a smile. And that was just hard for me, because I'm a talker, obviously. But I was intimidated to share my faith, because, I don't want to be persecuted or ridiculed. And I cared a lot about what people thought of me. And that really ensnared me for a while. And so God eased me into it by saying, just you carrying my presence is all this world needs. And when I tell you to speak, you'll speak if you want to, but it was about me being Christ-like, being one with Christ, being so lovesick for him that I demonstrated who he was. In French, the word that means I miss you, they used to mean I miss you, means I am missing from you.
Wow.
And that, I don't remember how to say it, and I don't remember, if you're French, cool. If you know how to say it, good. But the point is, like, we should feel that way. When we miss God, we should realize it's because we're missing from him, because we stopped abiding, because we stopped being one with Christ. And when we do that, we're not going to be the light, because he's the light that lives inside of us. And so if we're trying to be the light of the world, which is what we're called to be, regardless of if we stand at the street corner and preach the gospel, or if we just smile at someone in the checkout line, that is being the light. However God calls us to be the light, and to whomever he calls us to be the light, we must remember that alone we are not the light. Jesus is the light that lives inside of us. And apart from him, we can do nothing. And that revelation right there will humble you, but it will also draw you to God, who is the living water. He's the fountain. He's the light. I mean, he's everything. And his loving kindness is greater than life. So our response should be praise to him. All right, Seth. Any final thoughts? Closing arguments?
And I mean, for the final thing, going off that, and my pastor has taught me this, that whenever you truly carry the glory of God, and like you talked about, we can have the light of the world in us, and people will take notice of that, because even if you're not spiritual, even if you can't see in the spirit, there is something different about someone who is on fire for God and it operates out of that glory.
That's right.
And so as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in your quiet time, as long as you're being obedient to Father and just being there, like as long as you're saying, yes, I will be your vessel, Father will do all the hard work. He'll set you up, and you just have to smash it out of the park. Because he'll bring the people to you. He'll spark something in them, and they'll be like, what's different about you? Why are you like this? How do you why do you not act like other people? Why do you not cuss? Why do you not interact in all these different ways? And I think that was one of the biggest things that, because I don't like confronting people and talking to people, but that's one of the biggest things that kind of showed me that I can do this. I don't have to be the greatest evangelist that ever lived. I don't have to be some outgoing person. I can just be me. That's right. As long as I'm working and walking in the glory of God, like he's going to do the rest, because the glory attracts people. It can't not. It's like bugs to a light.
To a flame.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes,
a bug.
Sir.
Like people will be drawn to that no matter what, because they will be drawn to their identity, and Father is their identity. And so I mean, there's nothing you have to do.
That's right. We were created to love and to be loved. And when you embody the love of God, he does all the hard work, and we get to do all the fun stuff in him. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Seth, for sharing your heart. It was beautiful as always. Guys, we love y'all, and we're praying for you, and we believe in you. And I just know God's going to do something great in your life, so I'm excited about that for you. But until next time, be blessed and be a blessing. Bye, guys.
Bye.